Good afternoon. Welcome to another Bermuda's News and Views. I'm your host, Don Burgess, and today we're going to be talking about gay pride events that are happening next month, and we have some of the organizers here with us today. To my right is Liz Christopher. Welcome.
Thank you, Don.
Chen Foley.
Good afternoon.
And David Norcott.
Afternoon.
So tell us, set the stage for why you guys decided to come together and have a gay pride. It's more than a parade, but the whole weekend. What was the impetus for this?
I'm a bit of an academic geek, and I saw a conference in Jamaica put on by the University of West Indies called Beyond Homophobia in January last year, and I submitted to present because I felt it was important for Bermuda to have a voice at the table. It was for the whole region, Caribbean region, and I asked Chen and Liz if they would speak with me. So we did a three-part presentation to the panel, to the conference, on the three stages of development of Bermuda's legal history when it comes to LGBTQI plus issues. Starting with the Stubbs Bill 25 years ago, the Human Rights Act 6 years ago, and the current legislation around same-sex marriage or equal marriage. And we presented on that, and as a result, we came back after that. We really enjoyed the conference. Maybe you guys want to speak about the conference. It was awesome.
So I think one of the big takeaways or big learning opportunities from the conference, at least from my perspective, was that although Bermuda had achieved a lot of legislative progress, particularly since the Stubbs Bill was passed in 1994, particularly since the Human Rights Amendment Act brought into operation protections on the basis of sexual orientation, there have been a number of high-profile cases that went to court and were successful based upon that amendment. All of that was great, but we learned that there was a lot being done in the region more generally around helping LGBTQI people take up space, right? And by that I mean assert their identity as queer people in their own country, and publicly express the fact that they are proud of who they are. And that was an incredibly powerful learning opportunity, I think, for the three of us, and for me in particular. And so at the closing event, which was held at a hotel, the three of us, together with a student who joined us from Bermuda College, were around the table thinking about what we were going to bring back to Bermuda when we came back that night. And an easy win for us, we thought, would be organizing Pride.
Now, I know, like elsewhere in the world, a lot of Pride events take place in June. You've already mentioned the Stubbs Bill as the setting place for our Pride events. Why did you choose that as a marker?
We wanted to make sure that Pride was an expression of not only queer identity, but also Bermudian identity as well. And so we wanted to make sure that everything that we did, from choosing the date, choosing the theme, all tied back to our experiences in Bermuda. We wanted to make it really a Bermudian thing. And so as David mentioned, this year is the 25th anniversary of the passing of the Stubbs Bill. The actual date that the Stubbs Bill came into force was
3rd of September, 94.
And so the closest weekend, the closest Saturday to that date is the 31st of August. So we thought, hey, why don't we have the celebration on that date?
Now, I know, because I'm on the Facebook page and I watch all the interactions and things. It seems like there's a lot of people involved in help putting it. It's not just you three. So just how many people are involved helping out and making sure everything goes smoothly next month?
Tons. I couldn't even begin to name all the help that we are getting. It's phenomenal. We've had volunteers who are volunteering to do social media, to look after entertainment in the park, to look after security, to provide sound, to make donations. I mean, there's a phenomenal response, and literally, I would say hundreds of people are volunteering their time. We've had at least 80 sign up on the web already, just in a couple of days. A lot of people. It's wonderful.
What's it like to have, all the people sort of just stand up and say, look, I'm going to help, I want to help, I want to be proud of who I am and help everybody?
I think it's slightly overwhelming. I mean, going back to the conference and the coming out of the conference and sitting around the table together and discussing, you know, the possibility of having Pride, there was a debate amongst us about whether Bermuda was ready for Pride. And I think we got over that hurdle quite quickly, and then I started to worry that we wouldn't have many people come out in support. And I honestly thought it would be a struggle to get 20 people and a dog, but apparently you can't bring dogs to the park. So just 20 people to come out and support. And so the response has been completely overwhelming.
Now, part of the thing, I guess, is there's been a lot of positive. Besides the support, what are other positive aspects that you have seen as you started this move towards having the events?
I think it's not just support, and we've had support from all sectors of the community, but I think it's a sense of all the members of the LGBTQI plus community coming together and earning it, you know, and wanting to participate in their own rights, not just, you know, we have lots of people who aren't gay who wish to support, but we have lots of members of our community who are like, finally, you know, I get an opportunity to express myself or to feel comfortable occupying space in Bermuda. And for me, that's the most rewarding part, is that members of our community feel like they have a place and a chance to be together.
Now, you keep mentioning QI plus. So for maybe people who aren't initiated, we've talked about queer, but I and plus, so what do those stand for?
The I is intersex, so those are persons who are not born with the same genetic, purely male or purely female physical makeup, and the plus is just for allies and anybody else.
Okay. I saw I guess one of the interesting discussions I saw was like the discussion about the Bermuda Gay Pride flag and the colors, and, you know, making sure that it's inclusive. How is that helpful?
Helpful, I think I would approach the question slightly differently. Important, I think, is the way I would look at it. Important because in making the event a Bermudian event that acknowledges our history as Bermudians, I think, and David can speak to this because he spoke to this quite well at the launch on Monday, it was important, or it is important, to recognize that the gay rights movement has not always been affirming of people of color, black people in particular. Even though people of color have been involved in the modern gay rights movement since the first riot at Stonewall.
Yeah, so the rainbow flag dates from, I think, 1978, from the movements in San Francisco. Since then, it's been adopted internationally as a LGBTQI plus symbol. But in 2017, Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia, added 2 extra stripes to the flag in recognition of the fact that although the stripes on the flag don't represent skin color, they could have been seen to have been exclusive, as Chen said. So the addition of black and brown, although it represents the inclusion of everybody, people of color, they actually stand for diversity and inclusion. So if you look on our website, we've got the up on there, and so each of the different colors has a meaning, and the black and the brown mean diversity and inclusion. And so it's really, we just thought it's really important that we continue that, what Philadelphia started and what Manchester Pride is doing this year. They've included it in the flag as well. So that's how we got to the decision to include it in the logo.
Now, you mentioned the website, and that was launched this week as well?
Launched on Monday, www.bermudapride.net.
Okay. And what can people expect to find when they go on there?
So as David mentioned, a description of what the colors of the flag represent. Our logo is on there. We released the logo on Monday as well. And then the creator, the designer of the logo, very helpfully drafted some beautiful words that describe the inspiration for the logo. So that's there as well. And then obviously the important things like the order of events for the day. And then everybody wants to know about the parade and the route. And the map is on the website as well.
Now, we've talked about the parade quite a bit, but it's not just a parade. There are events stretched out over 4 days, I believe. So what are some things that are going to be happening that people can attend and go to?
Well, on the Thursday we're going to have Petra Kucha. They're having a queer version of it, or a pride version of it. That's going to be on the Thursday at a venue yet to be announced. On Friday, we're having a panel of speakers come that we met at the conference from Jamaica, Guyana, Barbados, and Trinidad, either Pride organizers or persons who run the gay and lesbian trans organizations in their country. And they're going to speak about what it's like to be basically gay, lesbian, etc. in the diaspora, in the former British colonies. We found, or I found at least, at the conference that we have a lot of shared experiences in terms of how we've traditionally responded through letters to the editor and the like, or the reaction to, for example, Buju Banton coming and singing, and the pain and that's associated with that entire outpouring of how some other people feel. So we thought it was very important to have them come and share with us. I mean, we have achieved so many significant legislative changes in Bermuda, but we really need to come to grips with internal growth in terms of, you know, how we feel about ourselves and the space we occupy. And so we found dealing with them very affirming, and we learned a lot from them. So we're having them come and speak so that they can share.
Do you feel like Bermudians who are of the LGBTQI plus persuasion have felt maybe a little bit isolated from other places in the world that seem to be more inclusive up to this point?
I would say that our media, insofar as we have representations of the movement, have tended to be from North America, and in the sense that David was talking about the pride flag, you know, it has a sense of being a particular kind of gay person, usually not a person of color and the like. And sorry, excuse me, we've tended to adopt a lot of their themes into how we act, but I think, you know, pulling from the West Indies, generally speaking, people who are a lot closer to us culturally would help us to advance a lot more steadily.
I think it also rounds out conversations with our colleagues in the Caribbean, particularly the English-speaking Caribbean, helps us to round out our understanding of how we both express our individuality, but also navigate the state. In fact, that was the theme of the conference that we attended in January, how we navigate the state as queer people. And one of, I think, the more interesting, shockingly interesting things that I learned while in Jamaica, or before going to Jamaica, was that there's been a lot more work around trans advocacy. We don't talk about that as much in Bermuda as we probably should. But in the Caribbean, there's a lot more work that's being done by grassroots organizations, advocacy groups, and the Caribbean Court of Justice actually, within the last, it's almost not even a year yet, released a very helpful progressive judgment about the importance of respecting individuality and diversity, particularly for trans people. Again, not something that we've experienced here yet, but something that we can learn from our neighbors in the region.
Do you feel the court case over, David used the word equal marriage, is that what would be a preferred word rather than same-sex marriage? We'll start there. Is that would be preferred?
I think so, because I think marriage is marriage. Everyone can get married at the moment in Bermuda. There's no such thing as being gay married. You're just married, right? You don't get gay divorced, you get divorced. It's our view is that it is what it is. It's not gay water, it's just water, regardless of who drinks it. So yeah, my preference is to use the term marriage equality or equal marriage.
Okay. How do you think the cases over the last 2 years have helped, you know, sort of maybe galvanize the community to say, you know, we're getting some rights, we're you know, the courts are recognizing this, we're moving forward?
It's helped. I think it has helped to make LGBTQI issues part of our national experience. It's definitely ensured that our issues are part of the common language, because we talk about the cases or the legislation within the context of what's going on, sort of like in a real life basis. Cases, lawsuits, legislation, though, don't necessarily change hearts and minds, and they don't create the kind of social change that I think is necessary even in a place like Bermuda. I think what creates that change is people identifying, gay people and straight people identifying that there is commonality, that there is unity in the fact that we are all Bermudian, or we all live here and we're working towards the same goal. And we respect and love each other. And that's part of what Pride, at least for me, seeks to achieve. Just creating that sense of there's just a whole lot of respect for people and their differences.
And do you feel like now that the respect for the community has grown over the last year or so? Or do you feel like there's still a lot of pushback? Well, there is still a lot of pushback, but...
Some pushback. So, I mean, anecdotally, when I first came back to Bermuda from university in the early 2000s, anytime there was an article in the World Gazette, or even the Bermuda Sun at the time, the comment section would be hugely negative. And I'm speaking about articles about LGBTQI issues, and I think at the time we were talking about amending the Human Rights Act to include sexual orientation. And the comments, like I said, would be hugely negative towards the community. That's shifted over time. And so even now with the announcement of Pride on Monday night, the comments, I mean, you see a couple that are negative. You see people posting on Facebook things that are just not nice. But overwhelmingly, there is a shift, and you see that palpably, I think.
And I think that's demonstrated with the level of support that we've got. If you look on the website, you see some of the big companies that have stepped up to sponsor it straight away. And and thanks to them, that I think that just signifies that people, Pride is giving a space for people to actually express themselves, but not just to the LGBTQI plus community, but also to the wider community, because we're all one community, right? And as one community, we all know each other. And so I remember back at the time of the Two Words in a Comma campaign, when campaigning for sexual orientation to be put in the Human Rights Act, one of the posters and one of the themes was, it could be your doctor, your lawyer, your bus driver, your
son,
your daughter. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. And so I think as that realization comes more vivid to people, that actually this is where everybody is here and we're all connected, then I think that then gives the space for the allies and those who are related to or friends with to have the space to also say, right, we support you. And I think that's the wonderful thing that's coming out of Pride, and to go back to what you were originally saying, is that's why we're having so much support, I believe. Is
there any, on an individual level, is there anybody who's expressed support to you that was kind of surprising, that you didn't realize that that they would step up to the plate or the wicket, if we want to use a cricket term, ahead of cup match?
I was bowled over by the police commissioner, who came out pretty early on. I'm thankful that he did come out in support of Pride. I think leadership from individuals like the police commissioner have helped to set the tone, and I think it gave people license to say, look, I've supported LGBTQI employees in the past. I feel comfortable now stepping out and doing so publicly, because they had license to, because someone as senior as the police commissioner had done so. And so for me, I think that was unexpected. When you look at sort of like the relationship of the police outside of Bermuda with Pride movements, like in Toronto, for example, or in the UK, there's always been sort of like a journey towards getting the police service comfortable with the event, and then allowing the staff or police officers to support the event in uniform. We didn't have that journey. We just came out of the gate and boom, there we are. And that's phenomenal. And going back to a question you asked earlier at the beginning, like one of the things that sort of like pleasantly surprised me about sort of like this whole thing, looking at the volunteer sheet, because we've got a whole lot of work to do to coordinate the volunteers. Seeing names of people I went to high school with who left the country, and I know they left the country because they're queer, gay, or lesbian, and have developed lives outside of the country, but seeing them not only coming back for Pride, but volunteering when they come back, I think that's amazing. And I think it says something about where we are as a community.
And I could be wrong. It seems like to me that there's the younger the person is, there's more acceptance. As the older people are, they tend to be a little bit more conservative. And is that a fair?
I don't know. I'm kind of old, and
you're not older than me.
I don't know about that. But yesterday
we'll compare ages off camera.
Yeah, but I got a call from a classmate in primary school yesterday who said, she knows me, she sees what we're doing, and she wants to volunteer, and she wants to get her crew to volunteer. So that, I guess, was the surprising person to me that has stepped forward, and I think it's awesome. But more importantly, I think the most surprising feature to me is what giving companies, for example, or organizations an opportunity to support us has done to create a feeling of safe space in those organizations. Companies that are sponsoring us, or companies that it's caused companies to have a conversation about what benefits they're offering or how they are delivering their services to persons who are not necessarily straight, and how they could improve it. So that's the surprising feature to me, not necessarily the surprising person. That I'm really excited about.
I went to a very conservative Christian college, and one of the other resident assistants, who was a good friend of mine, when I was going to Boston, I went to meet him. And in college, he wasn't out, obviously, during 80s, during that point in time, especially at the Christian school, wasn't very good. But he wanted to make sure, before I met his husband, that I was cool coming from where we came from. So we just had a very open, honest talk. And I think maybe now, 30 years later, people have grown a little bit more because there's not as much stigma. I mean, there's still some stigma in certain segments of the community, but I see that in Bermuda, sort of being chipped away on the edges with each year that passes.
I mean, one of the comments that I think Mark Anderson made on Monday's launch was that Pride is probably Bermuda's coming out, right? As a country, Bermuda has always had LGBTQI people, always. Might not have treated the LGBTQI people very well, but always had them, right? And so this is an opportunity for the country to recognize, the mothers, the fathers, the sisters, the brothers, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, godparents, who are different, who make up the diversity of the country. And so it's part of the learning, the growing journey of the country. And so while it is a celebration, I think, of a certain segment of the country and the allies of a certain segment of the country, I think it's the coming out of Bermuda and recognizing diversity is great. Diversity is what made the country it is, right? And that's no bad thing.
Now, I have seen some of the comments, especially early on. There was a couple of people making comments who have a history of being very homophobic and with violent tendencies towards the LGBTQI plus community. But again, what you said, the police commissioner stepping up right away, how did that help say, okay, this is going to be a safe space for us?
I mean, it helped in terms of, one, putting, I think, our concerns to rest, that, this event is way bigger than the three of us. And we have the support of Bermuda Police Service, which I think is great. But it also helps with our planning. And so planning an event like this, I mean, we gave ourselves, 2 months, really effectively, to pull this together. Part of that, in terms of the logistics, is ensuring that everyone has a safe and fun day. And so we do have to work with the Bermuda Police Service. We work with a private security company. We'll work with our volunteers within the next month, just in terms of the background logistics, so that everyone has a fun, healthy, and happy time. And in the background, we have the support of the Bermuda Police Service, just monitoring the chatter on social media. We know that they've been quite clear to us that they're there for that purpose, and I think that's great. And it helps us, it frees us up mentally just to focus on what we need to do just to make Pride successful, because we know we've got the support we need in that area.
Was there some fear that there'd be a bit of a backlash or push? Or I saw somebody also say they're going to organize a straight pride parade or straight pride demonstration.
They're welcome to.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. That's all I can tell you.
If you want to do as much work as we've done in the last few months, then go right ahead. It's a lot of work, but you know, it's a free country. You know, freedom of assembly, freedom to protest. It's in our constitution. So,
You mentioned earlier, you talked about how, you know, a lot of the companies and businesses have been out and supportive. Although I saw like some of the discussions, some people had some skepticism because the only color that they felt like some of the companies were thinking were dollar signs. Do you think this is genuine support for the most part, or are people trying to make a buck as well?
I mean, certainly the support that I've seen, I mean, I haven't really seen where people are just genuinely trying to make a buck. But clearly, a lot of it is clearly not about people who are genuinely seeking to make a buck. It's about people who want their employees to know that they appreciate diversity in the workplace. It's people who want to show to their employees and to the nation that everybody is valued. So I don't look at it like that. I think that's a very cynical approach to what is an outpouring of love.
Right.
Especially for this first year where this event hasn't been done in Bermuda before, and so people are still in their coming out process. And I'm not talking about queer people, I'm talking about the entire country, right? And so what we found is that even when the Save the Date was issued back in June, people just started stepping forward and saying, this is great, how can I help? And people help in terms of being volunteers. People who are proprietors of stores have independently brought in merchandise and said, look, we've got this on our shelves, which I think is revolutionary for Bermuda. And so to Liz's point, I think I'm not so cynical about the outpouring of support in that regard. I think it's great.
And I would agree with that. I'm not cynical at all in terms of that, because as well as what Liz and Chen have talked about, we've also had so many companies donate, saying how can we help? Can we help with paying with X, Y, and Z? So it's not about making money, at least not what we've seen.
There's a Facebook page, so if people want to, if they're supportive, we'll say that, if they're supportive, what's the Facebook page that people can go to?
So there's two Facebook pages. When we put out the Save the Date, as Chen mentioned, over a month ago, we as Bermuda Pride 2019 hadn't launched. It was just purely to say, hey folks, get ready, we've got this wonderful event happening. And our allies have been fantastically creating all these wonderful discussions. And so the one with a huge number of people on it is Tony Brandon's Facebook page, which is called Bermuda Pride Supporters, I think. Now that we have launched officially as of Monday, we've got an official, if you like, Facebook page, which is Bermuda Pride Organisers, and a Twitter and a Instagram, and that's all. You can get that from the BermudaPride.net website. But we don't own Bermuda Pride. It's the community.
Yeah.
It's everybody's. So
And the cool thing about it is, on the Bermuda Pride supporters page, going back early on, people became really creative and they wanted to design their own t-shirts, and so you can go through the troll through the list and see all the creative designs, and I think that's great. That's just all a part of just the community outpouring of support and engagement, which is, I think, what Pride seeks to achieve.
Well, I've been watching the page, and I just find it fascinating because, like, people are just popping in. Oh, I've done this or this. I saw Peter Sanderson volunteer to help have with pro bono to have the flag, Bermuda flag. What do you take from all the interaction that people are doing on these pages?
That's what community is about, right? That's what community is about. It's about supporting each other, even if you don't have to be queer to support Pride, and that's what it's about. Bringing people together. And I think Chen mentioned the word before. It's cliche, but it's about love.
And it's about people who might not even be queer saying, "This is my skill set." Like Peter Sanderson, you mentioned. This is my skill set. I'm offering it to you because this is what I can offer. The creative types, like I've mentioned, have designed really creative, beautiful things, and that's their way of saying, this is what I can offer. please take it. And that's, again, it's all part of Pride.
Yeah. And our website designer is being done by an ally, a Bermudian ally, Kristen Souza, and it's phenomenal. And that's, again, just a way of saying, here, let's help.
I saw, because I did my little social media push beforehand, and I saw Kristen had liked one of the posts that I made, so Kristen.
Like for like.
Thank you.
I didn't want to take up too much of your time, and a half hour has already flown by very, very quickly. So I just want to give you all a last chance to have a say, or just what's on your mind. So we'll start with Liz.
Well, thank you for having us here and giving us a chance to express what we're seeing, what we're feeling. We're so excited. And you're welcome to go to the website, everybody, and look for a way to participate or be creative and come up with your own way to participate. So it's great.
Jen?
So there's one thing I want to mention. We mentioned at the launch, part of claiming our history and acknowledging our history involves recognizing situations where Bermuda really hasn't been that great a place for queer people to live, and where people have physically suffered as a result of the institutionalized homophobia here. And so there was in the 90s a homophobic murder, and it's something that I think we as a country must openly accept happened here, recognizing that it's important that we not make the same mistakes going forward in terms of ensuring that socially, culturally, Bermuda is not a feeding ground for homophobic sentiment of the type that gives rise to violence and murder. We've invited the family of Upi Ming to serve as the honorary Grand Marshals of our parade, or the Pride Parade, something that I think we discussed early on and we're all in agreement about. I'm very proud that we can do that as a way of showing solidarity with the family of Upi Ming, but also solidarity with people who are victims of hate crimes all over the world.
David?
I think my final thoughts are really to say that pride belongs to everybody in the community, and it'll mean different things to different people. Come out on the day and on the days around it and have a really, really good, fun time. But also I think we should keep in mind that there's a long history of people who came before us who were extremely brave and who fought really hard in progressing the country forward in terms of diversity and inclusion, and we shouldn't forget them.
People like Peter Carpenter.
Sybil Barrington, or Mark Anderson, Upi Ming,
Curtis Gray,
who's no longer with us. So many people. I wouldn't want to start listing them off because I'd miss people, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to. But just to bear that in mind as well as we celebrate the day.
Well, thank you for your time today. I know you guys we had a little bit of a back and forth just trying to find a time where we all could be here. So Liz Christopher, Jen Foley, David Northcutt, thank you very much. And while we've talked about the rainbow and the pride flag, you see we're all wearing blue today, and blue. Just
that wasn't coordinated. It just happens to be.
But they're all St. George's fans. And next Tuesday at noon, we're going to have Lionel Can from St. George's and Jordan De Silva from Somerset to talk about cut match. The teams will be selected this weekend. So we hope you tune in next Tuesday at noon. We're here at the House Bermuda. I'm your host, Don Burgess. And as always, I hope you have a beautiful day.